Thank you for coming. My name is Steve Sheets. I am a longtime developer of software, desktop, mobile, now VR, all sorts of platforms, everything from Apple to Windows to Android, and now to Oculus Go. And have done VR programming for iOS, for ARKit, Unity on Vive, and now Oculus Go, so have a large range of areas. I'm not going to be talking much about programming. We're going to be talking about what the state of the union is. I stole that. That's a state of the union is a term that's often used in the computer industry to tell you what is the current now. Like I mentioned before, this is one of the sessions. Please look at your bulletin for other sessions tomorrow and Sunday. So what we're going to talk about, all of these gadgets. Isn't it an exciting time? I played a VR system nearly 30 years ago, and it was terrible and cost $150,000, and it was the only one on the market. Look how many we have now, and some of them are really inexpensive. Some of them are so cheap, they actually appear in magazines for given away for free. That's the cardboard there. I am going to limit ourselves a little bit. We're only going to be talking about commercially available products in the United States. Military has their own, academic research, do-it-yourselfers. There's a whole OS VR, which is an open source VR. I'm not going to talk about that. Neither am I going to talk about esports, and I was going to talk about entertainment centers, but not enough time, so we're going to drop that out. If you want to talk about entertainment centers, come talk with me afterwards. So we're going to talk about, well, when I first put this speech together, I realized there is no way I can talk to you about the current state of the union unless you understand some of the concepts. So we're going to spend a good amount of time talking about what the differences is conceptually between the devices before we actually go into the hardware, a little bit about the software, and if we have time, only if we have time, I'll talk about some of the companies, because things within the companies is changing the industry. People leaving one here, dropping products there. Very much important to understand what's going on in VR. Okay, so here are the concepts we're going to talk about. The realities, the categories, degrees of freedom, room scale, tracking sensors, tethered, 360 videos, haptic, 3D sounds, and nausea. Very important subject, nausea. These terms, does everyone know all these terms perfectly? Does someone not know some of these terms? Good, we're going to talk about them. I couldn't imagine going on without continuing here. So what is VR, AR, MR, XR, SR? Yes, we are buzzword compliant here. They love to have their realities. However, it all started with artificial realities. This gentleman was one of the very first books. It used to be called AR, meaning artificial realities in the old days. We're talking about computer-generated reality, whether it's completely enclosing your head or only partially enclosing your head, and you see the reality with the real world. But again, this is computer-generated. It's also immersive, so that the reality makes you think it's really there. If it was just looking at a screen and you know it's no connection with you, that's not a reality. Now people have been claiming, when you read a book or when you play a computer game, you can get immersed into it. That's great, but there are other interfaces for that where you are definitely not immersed. VR by its nature is always immersed. You're always thinking that that's there. So what are the terms? Simple. VR, virtual reality, CGI only. That means that you cannot see the real world. There used to be VR meant everything. Really nowadays VR means you're wearing a headset or other types of devices. Headsets aren't the only ones, and you can't see anything but the reality. Augmented reality means that you can see the real world. You're either using your phone to look through it, or you have a visor, or even if you have a device on you and it has a camera and it shows you the real world, and there's computer images on top of it. What's the most common one for this?
Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go, though, originally wasn't mixed reality. Mixed reality is when the thing appears and interacts with the real world, which means your device has to know about the real world. Some people call that augmented reality. Microsoft and some other people call that mixed reality. The terms are fighting. So I'm just going to tell you, think of it in your mind as AR is the image appears on top of the real world but doesn't interact. And MR is it interacts with the real world. We usually do that by having planes detections or the laser scans and it knows exactly where the table and the walls are. Different technologies do it, It just knows where things are. Now you can go raise your hand. What would you have a question?
Oh, I said to further complicate the nomenclature, I've also heard that described as augmented virtuality.
Yeah, oh God, buzzwords here and there. There are other ones. By the way, this is the virtual reality, so you can see it's completely covering your head. Here's augmented reality. Now you can't see it, but the merge there actually has a hole in it, so the camera can be seen through. So it's projecting, even though it's on your head, you see a camera view of that world. And then of course the famous iPhone, where you're looking through your device. Pokemon Go, for example. Mixed reality devices, number one is the HoloLens. That's a visor, it looks through, so you see reality and it just projects it. And the other mixed reality ones are like what I just said for the one before, but these devices not only have the sensors to know where you're at, but also has a camera. So you're looking at completely a computer screen on the inside, but just showing you the view of the world.
Is that what Google Glass is supposed to be?
Google Glass was a strange experiment. I almost call it, it's not an augmented reality device, it was a very good voice input device with a small screen for you to show things. The screen was smaller than your iPhone this far out. That's how small a range of motion it was. As a voice input device, it's really good. And it's a completely dead product. Google will not continue on with that. There are other terms. Shared reality, telepresence. That means I'm looking at reality and you have a device and you're looking at reality and we both agree what the reality is. A game where we're both looking at the same battle board is a shared reality. Other terms, XR, extended reality. It's a superset meaning all of them. Extreme reality, I don't know what that means. Does anyone else come up with a definition of extreme reality? I think it's a marketing hype. And then there's HR, hyper reality. That's popping up more and more for companies like The Void, entertainment centers, where they actually have props and scale models, and the VR enhances the room you're in. So you're going to see that more in the future. But really, if you think about it, that's just a version of mixed reality. Categories. I tried real hard to come up with some categories that you'll understand. We have high-end VR, standalone VR, mixed reality devices, mobile devices, and cardboard headsets. Those are really kind of the way you can break out each one of them, not only functionality but also price difference. High-end VR is really easy. Vive, Oculus, PS4 VR. These high-end ones all have some similarity in common. They have a PC or a PS4 next to you. Uses the graphics power of the device to give you really high-end graphics. What's the downside? Any guesses?
Tethered.
You're tethered. You're attached to it. Now there are some exceptions. There are some devices now that give you wireless, but generally you're tethered to it. The standalone devices actually have the power and the intelligence of a VR device. There's no tether and there's no phone inside. For example, the Oculus Go, some of the other devices that are coming out there, their problem is usually because of battery, they're low powered, so they're not as lasting, as good as graphics. However, that's changing. Mixed reality devices are strictly ones that were designed from the very first to be MR. There's HoloLens in the center, and then there are the ones that other people made using Microsoft's Reality Kit on the outside. And they're all in a category by themselves. Mobile devices. Everyone that has a phone. Has anyone not seen augmented reality through your phone? You use the camera, places something on top. Android and iOS are pretty much similar in how they function. You hold it with your hand, or you put it there using some sort of mask. The most common mask, of course, is Google Cardboard. Show you some examples of that. And then the Google Cardboard. Google Cardboard was actually a skunkworks project at Google. Some guys decided to do it in their spare time. The plans were open sourced. They are $15 if you go to the Google Cardboard store. They were so cheap they were appearing in magazines. In most places you can get it for $2 or $3. Now they're more than just a cardboard. There's actually a little bits in there that tells you, the difference is how it touches the screen, either by using a magnet or some other detector. Now headsets are a little different than Google Cardboard. They're a little fancier, a little more expensive. Sometimes they have controllers which are then use Bluetooth to attach to go with your software to understand exactly, you're pressing a button to say what's going on. On a Google Cardboard, you reach up and you tap the side and that pushes the screen to indicate you're touching it. Truthfully, headsets are better than Google Cardboard. I'd recommend getting one. What is the difference between Google Cardboard and headsets for video quality? Headsets better? Nothing. They both have your phone inside. The video quality is absolutely identical. It's strictly the controller is the difference, and maybe a little bit of comfort. Some people really love the ones that are softly padded and fit on your head. Okay, now we're done talking about categories about that. Let's talk about a very common question. What is 3 versus 6? What is degrees of freedom? Tilt your head back, turn it this way, go around, pitch and yaw, everything if you're taking basic aviation. Those are 3 degrees of freedom. That describes which way you're looking and which way you're moving. Almost all VR devices, I will say almost all because there are some exceptions, use an inertial device inside there with a magnetometer and a accelerometer to determine when you tilt and when you move and which direction you're looking. The VR device doesn't have 3 degrees, it's kind of strange. There are a couple ones that look like fish bowls you put over your head and they don't move and you move inside of it. But that's really bizarre. Here are the 3 directions. You can see yaw, pitch, roll. Anyone else, Sarah Pilot? Well, those are the terms we use in aviation. You get the idea. So, actually I'm missing a slide. I am sorry, I'm missing a slide, so I'm going to talk. Okay, 6 degrees of freedom. What is 6 degrees of freedom? Well, besides turning and tilting, you can also move. You can move this direction, up and down. So anyone that tracks your position or your movement is considered 6 degree freedom. Oculus Go only tracks 3 degrees. It does not track where you move around in the room. Your iPhone is a 6 degree one because it uses accelerometer, and if an airplane appears there, you can walk all the way around it. Most devices are the high-end ones, Vive, Oculus, Rift, those are all 6 degrees. PS4 is 6 degree, though in a very strange way. We'll talk about that in a second. So when you buy one, determine what you want. If you want something that's only a 360 VR, Oculus Go is fine. If you want something where you move around and paint something like Google Tilt, you're going to need a better quality one. So what's this X degree? I've heard people say, oh, I want a 12 degree motion. Well, I heard about a 9 degree one. What is it? Something completely different. They're talking about a robotics term having to do with your arm. By the time you get down to your finger and movement on your arm, that's 1 degree, that's 2 degree, that's 3 degree, that's 4 degree, that's 5. People get confused by that. So 6 degrees is all there is real movement. This is something else. Am I going too fast? Okay. There is something else beyond 6 degree. It's called room scale. And that's what you see with the Vive and the Rift. You have sensors up in the wall that triangulate your location so that when you move around the room, not only does it know you're moving, but it knows where in the room you're moving. So in the iPhone, if I pop up with an airplane in the middle and I look at it, that's fine, but it doesn't really know where the airplane is in the surrounding walls. Now Apple's changing that with some plane detection, but it hasn't come there. It's not quite there yet. Other devices which are coming in the future also going to have 6 degree, but they don't really have locational room scaling. I'll tell you about each device as we go along. So realize there's a difference between room scale and 6 degree of motion. So how do we do it? 3D tracking, I've mentioned some of this already. It's done by internal sensors. Magnetometer, accelerometer, the gyroscope. People think there's a level inside. Actually, they gave up having a level a while back. Instead, they have a magnetometer. It's easier to use the Earth's magnetic field to determine whether or not you're tilting your head or not. Altogether, they're usually called the inertial sensors. Easiest 3D tracking, 60 degree tracking was the lighthouses. The Rift and the Vive put sensors up in the corner. I believe I have pictures of them right here. There's 2 style ones. There's one where the sensor sends out infrared to you and your cameras on your device catch it, or you send out infrareds on you and the cameras up there catch it. And of the 2, Vive is slightly more accurate in my opinion. Almost always these are room scale. Almost always they use infrared. It would be kind of silly to use bright lights or lasers. So that's why you can't see it. Here's the home sale. You can see the Oculus device, the Rift, was originally looked a lot like a microphone. It actually was put on your desk. It wasn't intended for the whole room. The later versions were they allow you to do the whole room. And the Vive from the very beginning had you mount them on the walls. Lots of us actually use stands instead of mounting them on the wall. That way we can take them down and put them up. So if you see one of these on the floor downstairs, it's a VR game. Go take a look at it. Speaking of which, there's a game downstairs called Curly, which is real fun. It's kind of like a saber beat, except you're following this light, tracing it. It's one best game I've seen. Okay, how do you do 60 room scaling now? I told you that was the beginning. Well, whoops, okay, I didn't have a slide here. It's being done with sensors. HoloLens actually has cameras looking out and locating yourself in the rooms. Oculus Go Quest, which is supposed to be coming out in the future, is supposed to give you this. We'll see how good it is. So there is more than one way of just doing it. Some people did it as an experiment using other types of sensors. It's still infrared is the most common way of doing it. Question here? I saw a hand go up. I'm sorry. So next topic is tethered. Again, fairly obvious, high-end versus non-high-end. High-end had the tethered in the back of your head. If you're doing a kung fu game and whipping around, you've been known to have the rope attached and catch your feet. So if you're doing a game that involves a lot of twirling, maybe tethered is not what you want. Oh, by the way, the 3D that I've mentioned, forgot to mention one 3D right here. Take a look. Picture's not here. PS4 VR. How's the PS4 VR? Does it give you room scale? No, it gives you 6-degree freedom. It has a camera. The camera is looking at you, and it knows when you're not moving forward and back. It's enough for good games. It's enough for some really nice games. It's not room scale. You're not going to use that to do something where you're drawing in different corners of your room. Again, though, it's tethered by a wire in the back of your head. Cardboard, Oculus Go, Rifts, these are all untethered.
Can any of them tell which direction you're looking, like if your eyes are moving around?
No, that's called eye tracking, and it's a real hot topic right now, and none of the commercial things. 3 guesses where that came from? Military. Military like tracking your eye for looking at objects and for firing. Some early stuff. We like it nowadays because it determines what you're interested in. Advertisers use it for high-end VR systems. I watch a commercial, and if I look at a product, I can tell what's interesting in the scene. It's going to be really interesting if you're using that for chat rooms, because then you can see who you're looking at. It's in the future, not right now. Okay, usually high-end, lower devices don't use it. There is some brand new ones, which is a device that allows you to tether it wirelessly. There is one for the Vive. Supposedly there's one for the Rift. I haven't seen it. The Vive one I have in my basement right now. I haven't plugged it in, and I'm running out of power. Let me hope this is not permanent. Could you do me a favor and grab my bag right there and grab the cable out? Yeah.
Is it this one?
Yeah, no, the white one. Yeah, plug that in, please. Just find a place to.
There should be a power strip.
There. Ignore the man behind the curtain. 360 videos. Has anyone not tried a 360 video? Do you need 6-degree freedom for this? No. Oculus Go is fantastic. 360 videos are the most common single category of app in any VR app store. There are a million of them because everyone wants to be YouTube. Everyone wants to be YouTube VR, including YouTube. So right now, and also content is really easy to make. You can go out and buy a very inexpensive 360 camera. Well, we had dinner for the VR folks this night, and he popped out this little camera about this big, took a picture of all of us together, and he's going to post that later. So very inexpensive, does not require room service or 6D freedom. Haptic. This was the moment for me when I said VR was for me. I was playing a VR game, was doing archery, I pick up the bow, which is 2 controllers. I pulled the bow back and it vibrated like a real bow. And I'm an archer, so I know it. I reached out, I let go, and it twanged like a real bow. At that moment, I knew VR had become something that was successful. Haptic is physical feedback of some manner to you to make you think the real world is there, to make you feel like it's part of it.
HTC Vive does a real good job at that.
Absolutely. Vibration is the most common haptic. It's the most important one in my opinion. It does require the controller to vibrate. It's one of the few things the HoloLens can't really duplicate because the HoloLens uses your hands for gestures, so you don't get the haptic feedback. It's also one of the poor things of the Oculus Go because the controller doesn't vibrate, so you can't have feedback for that. And it's a subtle thing. I mean, you point at something and it gives you feedback, no, that's not where to go, or your hand has gone too far. You can use it for a million different things.
But the bow demo is super realistic on the HTC Vive. You really feel like you're pulling a bow.
Absolutely, it's fantastic. Strangely enough, I have been on top of a castle shooting people with bow and arrows. I'm a reenactor, and it felt just like I was doing it in real life. It's kind of fun.
What were you reenacting when you did that?
Attack with a bunch of rapier fighters on a 3-story castle in Pennsylvania. It's called Pennsic SCA. Okay, we're starting to see all sorts of other devices for haptic. This is the future. This is a haptic gloves, a haptic chest plate. They're amazing stories. However, yes, they're available right now. They say that 1% of all PCs in the country have a VR device. Of all PC VR devices, maybe 1% has this type of device, so it's a very limited market.
Is HTC, I know they were developing this for the actual armor, like the chest. Like,
I believe this is not HTC. They're not developing this as a third party.
okay.
I borrowed it
They
from...
were in the works of it or something that they were doing something like...
I don't... oh, they're doing research. Everyone's doing research. Microsoft Haptic Research is an amazing YouTube channel if you want to go take a look at some really cool devices. But it's research. It's not mainstream in my opinion. I'm not going to be talking about what's going to be here 2 years from now. I do not think haptic devices will be here next year. And there is an argument that more and more people want to be free. They don't want to have that. So, we'll see. 3D sound. Sound makes a 3D environment. You see visually, but sound really makes it important. 3D sound means that the sound is key to locations. I hear a bubbling brook over there. If I turn my head, I can actually triangulate it. That means you got to have headphones. Now, some devices don't have headphones, just gives you flat sound. Some devices have headphones they have to flip down. Other ones have real cheap ones that you should replace. If you want a full immersion experience for an app or a video that has sound, get good headphones. Oh, it's also not available on handheld devices, or at least it does have sound, but there's no way 3D. I'm asking about 3D sounds, no way to do it. Better the sound, the better the effect. Okay, I did a seminar I took about 1.5 years ago. First rule of the seminar is making your customers sick is a bad idea. It's true. I have been nauseated by VR. First time I sat down in front of a PS4 VR system playing a tank game with a lot of hovercraft movement. A few minutes later, I had to put my head down. I was nauseated. It's usually caused by a disconnection between movement of what you see and what your ear is telling you. 15 to 10% of all people cannot handle VR. It's almost the same number of people who cannot handle 3D movies. Similar numbers can handle it, but don't really like high-speed motion. I fall in that category. I can handle VR, no problem, don't want to do it. So how do we get around this as a developer? And the reason I'm mentioning this is that's why you see apps that do it. You don't have them in mechanical movement, or you have slow mechanical movement. There are other tricks. You can make flashing, graying the edges, flashing items go across. In general, if you have a room scale, you can move a little bit of distance in the room and you teleport for the rest of the way. The teleporting is to make sure you don't get nauseated. There are other solutions. CES last year had an anti-nausea device originally developed for ships being marketed as a VR device. We'll see if that actually becomes useful.
Is it like one of those ones, like a wristband that has a
Yeah, exactly.
I used to wear those in the car because I got car sick.
Did it help?
Yeah.
Okay. Some people are marketing it as a possible VR. So we're done with the concepts. You see why I had to have you guys talk about this to understand it before we can talk about the hardware. And we're going to talk about everything. No, this is only a partial list. We're not going to talk about the Pico. I'm sorry, that's in China mostly. Yes, it's technically available in the U.S., but practically no penetration. There's a couple other items we're not going to talk about. Leap Motion, it really hasn't come out yet. That's in the future, in my opinion. I'm only barely going to talk about Pixmax. That's a vaporware. We'll see. So let's talk about what we do have. High-end VR, 3 devices: Oculus Rift, Vive, PlayStation VR. What are the requirements of them? Well, you have to have a good graphics card. At least the graphics card listed here. I like to say at 1060, I recommend a 1080 card because those are pretty good standards. You can say, yes, I know there's a 2080 card out minus a 1080. These would give you an idea of what exactly is required. For the PlayStation VR, you need a PlayStation 4. PlayStation 3 does not hack it. What about the Mac? I'm a Mac developer. I'm out of luck. Technically, you can plug a Mac into an external GPU using USB 3 and a Thunderbolt, and then plug in a high-end graphics card, and I've actually run VR devices. These are not very common.
Are the MacBook Pros any good at that?
The MacBook Pro like this, high-end MacBook Pro can do it because it has a USB-C, which will then plug into a separate chassis where the graphics card in. None of the Macs, laptop or desktop, have the power on CPU to do VR. They actually sell a VR kit that gives you all the things you need for doing it. And they support StreamVR, which is a standard for VR apps. I want to mention this last thing: very little penetration. It's just not happening in the real world. And we'll talk about Apple later in the company section if we have time. Oculus Rift, high-end VR, released in 2016, $400 now. It was $600, so they've all come down. 2 different screens. It was originally a Kickstarter. Then it was bought by Facebook. This is important because there's been some changes with Facebook of their direction. Again, high-end Rift device. I can't say it's any different from the Vive, which is my machine I like. I believe the Vive is slightly better locational. Nowhere is it any better in graphics. Because of course, they're both using the same cards. Rift components. They had sensors. I call them towers. Business options. They used to sell them separately. They claim that technically you can run it on Mac OS. I don't believe so. 2 controllers. You can tell the controller is very distinctive. They look like they're kind of like cuffs that you wear around your hand. The controllers for the Rift are quite different from the ones from the Vive. You can see the device and how it is. The Vive, high-end VR, this is the one I have, released in 2016. Again, the price was originally $799, it's down to $499. I believe I bought it somewhere in the $599 range, I don't remember exactly. Again, 2 dual screens. So if you think about that, it's a screen that's 1080 by 2400. It gets 1 for each eye. That gives you. Not all 3D apps actually take part of the telescope, stereo vision, most do. 5 components, has to have a mounted lighthouse, has 2 controllers, and it does have a $250 wireless tetherless device. The tether one looks like this. I have no idea why it looks like that. It was released only really recently in 2018. There are some issues with it having to do with heat. They hope they have fixed them. There are some alternative backpack systems where you have the entire PC on your backpack.
HP only.
Yes, and you walk around with it. Okay.
I don't know how that works out though, as far as graphics and power and stuff.
Well, it should be the same for the graphics and the power. I'm a little worried about battery usage.
Yeah. I don't think
You're going to be
that-
heating up the battery and possibly heat.
I wonder how big the latency is on this.
I've never seen anyone actually use one, but I've read stories about them.
So for power, you've actually got a proton accelerator on your back, right?
Yes, it would make a great cosplay costume. With a sign that'll help me not run into a wall. Okay, Vive Focus. This is future in the US, but it was released in China, so I'm going to talk about this. This is Vive's 6 Degree of Freedom device that uses scanners to figure out where you are, so it doesn't have to have any sensors in the wall. I've actually seen one briefly about a month ago. Have no idea how good it is. The graphics are apparently comparable to the Vive, but the graphics on board is a lesser chip. So the screen resolution is good, the chip is not as powerful. So we will see how it works out. Price $699. So again, the price it was for the Vive when it first came out, not before it's reduced. Yes. Technically, by the way, this is not considered a high-end machine. This is considered a mid-range one.
The standard Vive, that's room scale and has the lighthouses. Does it not have the 6 degrees in the headset?
Lighthouse, when you have room scale, that's 6 degrees. It's a accelerated room scale. 3 degrees, 6 degrees, room scale is the way you should look at. Okay. PlayStation VR, it's the only high-end VR for console. There are no ones for Xbox or Wii, Nintendo's. It was released in 2016. It is the most popular VR device out there. There are more of these than anything else if you're not including the iPhone as being a VR device or Android. For a dedicated device, this is the big one. Now, price $399 technically. In reality, I bought one for $200 for Christmas, which included the #1 game, Astrobots. Astrobots, I mentioned before, #1 game, top 10 list, try it out. Again, dual screens, and it requires a PS4. It uses a camera for your positions, not room scale, but it's pretty good. The camera also has a nice effect that you can actually see where your controller is. And that, you can move your controller around. There are a couple games where your controller is a spaceship and you move it around to position yourself. Standalone VR, sometimes called tetherless. We have the Oculus Go, we have the Mirage Solo Daydream, we have the Oculus Quest, and we have the Pico VR Goblin. I'm not going to talk about that one. Oculus Go, smash hit. We had a hard time this evening trying to find numbers. They've sold over 1 million of them, and you can't find exactly how many in 2018. Very low price, $200. If you get one tomorrow, buy the $249. It's only $50 more, and the memory is almost all you need for content, because VR content is expensive, memory-wise. 3 degrees of freedom, a very small controller. The controller tracks beautifully, but no haptics. It actually, surprisingly, it tracks so well that I can use it for shoot-'em-up games, and someone occasionally shoots. I'm quite happy with it. There's the controller.
Can you guess what the big attraction of this unit is that this attraction gold?
I'm not sure. It's a combination of just perfectly well-suited, nice interface, comfortable to wear. It just hit all the buttons, and the price range was right.
Battery power.
Also, the battery power is nice. It can last a few hours.
But only 2 hours.
2 hours. Truthfully, you should probably not do VR more than 2 hours at a break. The jury is out for eye strain, for long-term effect, but just like staring at the computer screen really close, after a while you should probably take a break. Oculus Quest. This it's gotten, that's supposed to be 2019, I apologize. No lighthouse, similar controllers to the Rift, similar graphics to the Rift, price $400. If there's one thing that's getting all my VR people happy and interested, it's the Oculus Quest. Hasn't been released yet, nowhere. So we will see what's going to happen with it. This is either going to be the VR one that makes the industry, or it's going to be a flop. We're not going to be anything in between. How's my time? I'm sorry. Okay, we're doing fine. Google Cardboard, we talked about this briefly. 2014, free, $15. If anyone tries to offer you one for $15, say no. There are ones cheap for $10.5. Over 4 million of them. The only difference is in the controller buttons. Different revs did it different ways. Samsung Gear VR. This is compatible with a Galaxy device. It's $100. It's just a headset, but it has a really good controller. It has Oculus support. It was done with Oculus. A lot of the software can work with it. Over 5 million of them. More than PSVR, but remember those are standalone devices. This one you have to have a phone, Galaxy phone. It does not work with the iPhone. It does not work with all Galaxy devices. Look it up. Some people love it. I'm indifferent to a headset. I can't imagine spending $100 for a headset. Here's the headset I like, Mirage VR, 30 bucks. It's absolutely, in my opinion, the best AR headset because it's the only one specifically made to have a hole so your camera can look through. And now that we're starting to see some really good AR apps. And the AR app for this type of phone is one where you look through it and it's a split screen, one on each side, and using it so you can see. So you can wear this and walk around, not run into any things, and then play VR or AR games.
I've used the Gear before, and they do have a camera that you can look through while the headset on.
Okay, you can? Okay. The models I saw didn't. So if they changed that, I apologize for that.
I may not be one where there's a hole for your phone's native camera. They might have a small camera built into the headset.
That may be. There has been a couple of versions of the Gear, I do know that. Most important, whatever headset you get, make sure it's the right size for your device. You know, these things are big and small, and some of them aren't compatible. This one actually didn't fit in that device that I purchased, but my older phone did, so I'm happy. It's just, make sure you check. Microsoft HoloLens. You all have your time machine, so you can go back an hour and a half ago and listen to our friend's Microsoft HoloLens demo. If not, the video is going to be available online. It's a cool device. Released in 2016, priced about $3,000, $5,000. Why is it so expensive? It's a high-end AR device with the whole entire PC in the device. It's not tethered, it's all in there, all encompassing. It's the flagship for mixed reality. It also, in my opinion, is a short-term project in the sense that sometime in the future, HoloLens will come with HoloLens 2. If you're a developer who wants to get into it, yes. If you're an industry that has a purpose, yes. If you're a gamer, no. There aren't that much games yet.
How's to get connectivity to the internet? Is it through
Wi-Fi.
just Wi-Fi?
Almost all these devices have Wi-Fi.
Do any have?
No, none of them have built-in telephone, a cell tower. I expect that to occur when we start seeing mobile devices that go out in the open. But that's no Wi-Fi. Most of these are indoor Wi-Fi.
So are there mobile VR devices on the horizon?
Let's talk about that in a few minutes, okay? Now, let's say you don't want to get the flagship mixed reality and you're okay with it being tethered, but you're still interested in doing mixed reality. Microsoft has a standard called the Microsoft Windows Mixed Reality. It's a way of making your hardware so it's compatible with all the SDKs, which means if you write an app for it, it will work on the HoloLens or other devices. And there's a bunch of them. These were actually being sold in the Microsoft Store. I believe this is the one that John and I bought. Right, John? Yep. This is the one we bought. Price $450. It's good for VR and AR. It has a camera on it. It's not a visor. It's see-through. Released in 2016. But you also have the Acer one, which has got to be one of the more cool-looking, colored ones out there. Slightly less expensive, slightly different graphics, not quite exact. So decide which one price you want. There's a Dell version and there is a Samsung Odyssey. You can see they're all talking about the same range, $400 to $500. All of them are released in 2017 when Microsoft did their standard. Remember, Microsoft generally isn't a hardware store. They try to sell software and have other people make the hardware. So all of these are really nice machines for what they're doing. Okay.
The price ranges were just because of comfortability, and like the Samsung's 500, that's because it's more comfortable. It has AKG.
Controllers are slightly different too.
Yeah. Samsung was more expensive because of resolution, comfortability, and it has AKG speakers, headsets on it, so
yeah,
high quality.
Yeah, I knew it was the graphic. The headsets was a good point to mention.
Yeah, the headset is AKG. They're pretty high-end headphones. You can buy earbuds and headsets and stuff. So they integrated that technology into the VR, so it's more realistic sounding.
If I am a developer interested in this, or someone who's a gamer who wants to try it out and see if there's anything in there is interesting, this is a very viable way to go about it. Microsoft hasn't announced anything for HoloLens 2, and I've heard anything from 6 months to 5 years from how soon. So, on the other hand, if you never buy anything, you're never going to have anything in your hands. So you make the decision about that. Google Daydream. Well, Google Daydream is a standard from Google with their own Google Store, their own apps, released in 2006. It's a device that you put your phone into. I have one. It has its own headset and controller. It runs Google Dreamscape software. But again, it's a headset. I'm putting this different from the other headsets because the other headsets, usually you go to the iOS App Store and download something. This one, you actually run Google Daydream. And there are some very specific features that it has which are different from other ones for connectivity and also for detection of objects around you. So, Google worked with Lenovo to make the Mirage Solo. This was released in May of 2018. That's the exact same month, like 1 week difference between it and Oculus Go. I cannot explain why Oculus Go succeeded while this one did not. The sales of this have been much smaller. Still around, has some really interesting things. This is the first one that gave you 6 degrees of freedom standalone because unlike the Oculus Go, it has cameras and it detects where you are in the room using something called WorldSense. WorldSense is a VR from Google Dreamscape that detects you. Now, it's not room scale in my opinion, but it's like the iOS determining where you are in the room for movement. It also has a very limited controller. Matter of fact, the controller was only 3 degrees of freedom, not 6. It's real important for your controllers to be seen and know where it is. They've just come out with a 6 degree freedom, like a developer kit last month. Pixmar, we mentioned this. The very first 8K and 5K VR device out there. 8K is supposed to wow everyone. You can pre-order it today. It's a Kickstarter for like 3 years. When we see it, I'll be happy. Until then, wait until it comes out, because some people have been complaining for a 2-year time frame. They have delayed their release repeatedly, and it's a Kickstarter project. We'll see how that works out. Matter of fact, they have de-emphasized the 8K and they are re-emphasizing the 5K. When it gets here, oh, by the way, it's also quite large and a little bit heavier. We'll see how it works. That's the hardware that I'm going to discuss today. Is there any hardware that I haven't mentioned that is really important for you to talk about?
Yeah, there was one I saw on, I don't know for Kickstarter or something like that, and I don't know if it's where I mentioned that Worldscape, but there was something where you could actually map the room that you're in to keep you from walking into the...
Well, the HoloLens is the #1 for mapping the room for location, okay? iOS and Android SDKs are starting to do that, but they really aren't designed for mapping the room. They're determining a surface so you can put an object on it. You'll still trip over the chair. If either get a visor, get one that's augmented reality, or get something like the HoloLens that they're really not quite there yet. If you have a full encompassing VR and you're walking around, make sure it's clear. Now most of them, for those who haven't tried it, when you get to the edge of the room scale sense, you'll see a grid pattern, and it tells you don't go past that. It's real seriously. I stuck my hand playing Game House once and hit the side of the wall. So stay within your area. It's for safety purposes. Okay, let's talk about software and for companies. Actually, I'm going to talk about software first, then we'll talk about companies. Steam VR. Steam, of course, is the #1 distribution platform for PC games. I don't know how they won, but they've just become the standard. It's amazing how quickly they became the standard. Steam VR is the software that the Steam team developed with Vive to do most of the functionality. So when you say a Steam VR game, it's smart enough to run on both the Rift and the Oculus Go now. So there are VR apps in the Steam store that aren't written with Steam VR, and some of them are written for Oculus, some of them are written for Vive, some are written for both. If they're written with Steam VR, they're designed for both. And that's becoming a more standard. I cannot imagine you writing VR software without using Steam VR if you're doing Unity or Unreal. It makes your life so much better. Google WorldSense. I'm a developer. Most of these I've actually programmed or at least tested. I've never actually used Google WorldSense. Is anyone here using it? That's supposedly Google's way of handling location based on camera built into it. It should be noted that that was the first one out there to do something like that, so it was before anyone else. Microsoft Mixed Reality Kit, that's the SDK we've talked about that allows you to have compatibility between HoloLens and other devices. It's not intended to be run on devices that do not have the Windows Microsoft Rift Reality standard. So Vive, Rift, all those others don't support it. Now what happens if you have an iPhone? What's happening there? You're actually using a piece of software called ARKit. There's an almost identical one called AR Core for Android. AR Kits is slightly superior because they've added recently object identification. My friend John and I did a research project where we could actually put down playing cards and identify what card it was using AR Kit and animate a little token above it spinning. So it's really cool, but it's native mobile. So if you're a programmer, who's here a programmer, by the way? Am I talking to no one's interested? You don't count. Come on Sunday, we'll talk more in detail. There are cross-platform tools like Hudon, AR Toolkit. AR Toolkit's probably the most popular one. Volforia and Easy AR. These are mostly plugins for Unity or Unreal. The advantage is that they are a little bit cross-platform. If you write them, they should be able to work on all platforms. The disadvantage is you're not using the power of the native mobile. That's always the problem with doing cross-platform tools, is you're not touching bare metal, so you can't take it to the closest, the most powerful. I will talk about Magic Leap. Magic Leap is out there in developers' hands. Remember I talked to you about the DC VR group? Our February meeting, we're going to actually have someone bring in a Magic Leap. It's got a lot of people excited. Don't know what exactly the price range is going to be. Don't know when it's going to actually get released. But it actually has been shown. There's been developer conferences. Again, it has a HoloLens-like sensor. Microsoft and Magic Leap are the only two companies that really get the idea that space is the most important thing. Apple gets the idea that surfaces are good, but the other two companies really are understanding about where you are in the room or where you are in the world. In some way, Magic Leap has gone beyond HoloLens. HoloLens is here. HoloLens works great in the room. Magic Leap was designed for you to go outside and around, but it's not here yet. And there's finally, we have Vive Wave. This was just I gave this talk about a month and a half ago privately to a small group of people. Vive Wave hadn't been announced yet. Announced in China in November. This is a way to make hardware that's compatible with each other. You'll be hearing more about that in the future. I want to make a gun controller and I want it to work with my Vive. Well, I have to make it so that the Vive controller works with the Vive. So this is standard for that. China, really, it's important there because they want to have lots of different devices. They want a lot of different headphones, headsets, software to support that. So let's go back to the company's direction. Facebook bought Oculus. Shortly after, one of the founders of Facebook left. Other ones stayed on as CTO. He quit 3 months ago? 2 months ago? Yeah. Quit very unhappy, because Facebook canceled the Vive Pro. They wanted an extended, more powerful version of Vive, and instead, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Oculus, I'm saying Oculus.
Yeah.
I apologize. Oculus is the company they bought.
It was made by some guy, they paid like over $1 billion, they bought it out from him.
Vodka. The important part is Facebook has decided not to go with the high end. They'll keep the Vive around, but they're not going to have Vive Pro, and they're putting all their stuff into the mid-range Oculus Quest. That's the most important thing for them. They also, like I said, 2 founders have left, so whatever vision they have, it's not the first guys who started the company, which may be a good idea. I've seen companies not succeed that way. Microsoft, there is no doubt, is looking at the long term. In some ways, they're looking at the best way, in my opinion. They aren't emphasizing on games in the short term the same way you're not going to have a device for the Xbox in the next year. I could be wrong, that could surprise me, but we haven't had it in the past. Google has wanted to go their own way with their Google Dreamscape, but it hasn't been very successful. I wouldn't be surprised if they drop it.
Why does Google drop everything they try?
They don't drop everything they try, they just drop the stuff that doesn't succeed. And that's not unusual. I can give you a list of things that Apple and Microsoft have both tried that failed. It's quite normal. It's just, you guys, sometimes the VR gets the attention and they see it's there and then they drop it. Now, Apple's solution for VR and AR, really great for AR, really terrible for VR. The VP of VR actually said in a meeting that VR is not in their near future. Having said that, my God, the number of patents they put out in VR is astounding. The number of companies they have purchased that could possibly do the hardware is outstanding. Are they working on a project? Yeah. Will it be shipped? No idea. I used to work at Apple. I know people at Apple. There are lots of projects they get all the way to the point of actually finishing and then decide not to ship. Microsoft does it the same way, just the way the industry works.
Hey Steve, something just occurred to me. It could be they've taken out all those patents and bought all those companies, not so much to develop VR by themselves, but to keep it out of the hands of others.
Yes, now Apple traditionally does not go after patent trolls. They are not patent trolls themselves. They don't really hit other people who violate their patents. They do protect themselves by buying other patents so they can't get sued, because they have been sued credibly by patent trolls. So Apple buying it off is not a bad thing, if that's the case. Now, having said that, they are real big in augmented reality. They are pushing the envelope of what you can do with the AR kit. So then in the AR kit, by looking through your iPad or your iPhone. So it's possible they are looking at some device like this in the future. I would not be surprised. We've already talked about Magic Leap. Covered most of the companies. Any other company I missed that you were interested? I try to stay up to the industry. Okay. In that case, we've reached the Q&A section of our class. And I thank you for bearing with me. I swear to God, I was scared to death there was no one here when I walked in. Any questions?
What do you think the biggest roadblock for VR becoming more mainstream is? Is it just still the price point, or is it just lack of applications and use cases still?
Oh, that's a chicken and egg argument. Price is really important. Oculus Go at $200 really made a breakthrough, and we couldn't make the prices that expensive. First of all, there was a huge R&D cost that had to be made up. Why else did we see prices of $79.99 go down to $499 and $399? $399 price is a good price for a standalone device, and I expect to see that soon. So this is the year, in my opinion, for mainstream VR.
IMAX just announced that they're closing all their VR centers, so...
That's IMAX. But that's using a VR center as a entertainment source. At the same time, Void, who does the Star Wars VR experience at Disneyland, is opening up 12 across the country, including one in Tyson's Corner. If you go down Tyson Corner's Mall, you'll see Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, hyper reality experience on the wall there and picking the center up. So I really wouldn't worry about the centers, because that's a kind of different thing. We still have the FOSSA Battletech booths downstairs, and that was, God, almost 30 years ago. So the more important thing is devices.
The device sales, I think, were down this year. Why do you think that was?
The recent device sales? I haven't seen the number.
In Q2 of 18 it was down. I saw a report.
Quarter two, yes, quarter two was down, and then went back up in quarter three. I don't know what the quarter four was. So Oculus Go is one that was pushing and bending the envelope. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, the high-end ones were probably down a little bit. Other than that, I don't have an opinion on what was tracking that.
And so just going back to the other question on the mobile devices, do you see, are those coming, like using the ones that are capable of using data?
What, you mean like the Oculus Quest?
Yeah.
And the yes, absolutely. The Quest is going to be here. The Vive Focus, right? Vive Focus is in China. I've actually seen a device in hand here. It hasn't been gone. It's a very soft launch in the United States. It hasn't been really hard launched. I would not be surprised if they do it in the next month or two to try to get out before the Quest gets out. That's very likely what's going to happen.
So is it
Thank you so much.
that people expect it to be wearing it and walking around in the streets? Or how?
Still there. I would be careful about that for safety issues. They are mostly full VR and not AR. You better not be walking around now. We'll see. Both of those devices I just mentioned does have an external camera. I haven't seen the software to know whether or not they're emphasizing AR. Honestly, we're not quite to the point where I'd recommend walking around. You know, technically, if you have a car and you're driving around and it projects a screen inside, you're not supposed to drive. That's illegal because it's distracting. I can't imagine the AR systems we have right now not be distracting from you walking around. Who here has not seen someone walk into a pole while looking at this? I've seen it. I've seen it many times. I won't say if I've ever done it. So, if I could speculate on some of those questions, I'd make a fortune. I'm giving you the best knowledge I have right now. Yes, sir.
Will there someday be options for haptic feedback that could like knock you off your feet?
Well, there's a couple different types of haptic feedback, okay? There are a ton of haptic feedback devices out there that work with the Vive and the Rift at the moment. I don't know any high-end ones that work with the other devices. They can cover your hands, they cover your arms. They have devices that Microsoft worked on where you hold one device here and then move the other hand, and when you hit something real or virtual, it won't allow you to move any further, so you can actually feel the edge. All sorts of experiments. None of them have had the penetration that you'd really see. And I swear most people are going more and more towards wanting to not be encumbered at all, or at most a controller. I used to be in the military, did a little bit of research in this area. Military got away from voice-activated devices and even hand gesture devices because in a combat situation, pressing a button's faster. So I don't think we are going to ever drop the controller, because in controllers, with you have controls on your hand, you can still move much faster than anything that could track your hand in the near future. Now, maybe a year from now, when we get hand gesture tracking so absolutely good you don't need it. But even then, people like holding their hands in something and pressing buttons to make it fast. Was one of our questions that we were going to ask we didn't get to on our panel today.
Was there any work done, or maybe work done and abandoned about maybe using ultrasound for spatial location?
Yes, absolutely. It was done. There's still being research on it. Infrared turned out to work better.
I can see it more precise.
My understanding is it had to do more with the recognition of the software for tracking it. And the precision of the ultrasound wasn't anymore as important as the other one, and infrared works better. So anyone's devices that originally did that, other than do-it-yourself devices, or maybe one or two in China, have all gone to infrared. Yes, sir.
When we're talking about 3D sound, I was thinking about some other emerging sound formats, maybe like Dolby Atmos, or...
I'm combining that all together in those type of sound environments. Yes, there's a lot of work on that. Most of those designed to have more than 2 headphone speakers though. And most devices only have 2 headphones. There has been some experimentation about putting a speaker behind you and 2 up here and giving you a 5 sound system. Again, nothing mainstream. It's been mostly experimentation. Most of the SDKs will support that. In other words, if you create a custom hardware device that did that and then wrote drivers in it and plugged it into the Sound 3D engine, it would work. Has anyone actually worn one? John, have you? I know we've talked about it. Have you actually seen one of those in real life?
Seen one of what?
A 5-speaker VR headset.
No, I've only used quadraphonic.
Yeah, neither have I. I've seen articles about it. I've seen pictures of them. They're almost all do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah. I bring it back to school and do research.
Good luck with that. It's a cool idea.
That's a cool idea.
But we're running against the idea of 2 is good enough, and we want to keep the price under the $399 threshold. So,
I've also looked at sound designers who work on movies, on Dolby Atmos, and I think, now who actually has that in their house right now? That might change in the future.
might.
So I'd like to know if that.
We're still looking for the killer app. I've said this over and over again. A killer app almost never is a game. We need an app that shows something that someone's doing with VR that they've never done before in a way that everyone understands immediately and everyone wants to do. I expect we're going to have some of that. Whether it's something in editing or something in shared reality, I don't know. Any questions that I haven't answered? Anything you're curious about VR? I was hoping to give you a foundation of what it is today and a little bit a step forward and no look in the past, because the past is fascinating as hell to see how we got here. But yes.
Do you think headsets with cameras that have a room scale like functionality by detecting walls and things are likely in the next several years to entirely replace lighthouse setups?
That's where they're going. Okay, the reason why it won't work right now, too much CPU power to do that, software that hasn't quite gotten that point. We can get the software working. If we do the CPU power, we have to make it low power or use up the battery. So it's kind of like designing an airplane. You get a bigger engine, that means more fuel, which means it's more heavy, so you make the engine bigger. It's a really fine balance here. And like anything in technology, it will be better next year. So yes, it's solvable, and everyone hates being tethered. Everyone hates to only be able to do it in a room that has the lighthouses in the corner. So as soon as we can get the cameras working to they're as good as that, yeah, they'll disappear. Will it be this year? I hope so. Will it be by the next year? Yeah. I can't imagine it'll be more than 2 years, not with the level of R&D and research and being thrown at it. Is there another session after that we're keeping out or anything? Okay, good. What's that?
10:30 is our next slot here.
Okay, that's good. This is the first time I've given it to this amount of people. Thank you for coming, and thank you for putting up with my ramblings at times.